What's up guys, today we're going over the ultimate Threadling build in Destiny 2. This was originally going to be my first Warlock build with Strand, and at first I didn't really love it and I don't think I was going at it at the right angle, and I liked the Suspend build better, but now I think I have the right tools to make it really work. So now we're going to be going over this build. So in this build we're going to be taking advantage of both of the Warlock aspects. First with the one about your grenade, we're going to be using the Threadling grenade where hold to consume and immediately generate 5 perch threadlings. That's going to be the main building block of this build with the Threadling grenade. But the Weaver's Call aspect also creates 3 more threadlings when you cast your Rift, and it will also deploy any threadlings you have perched. So looking at that, holding our grenade and consuming it will instantly perch 5 threadlings, doing damage with any weapon or melee, will then send out the threadlings towards the target, doing 11,000 on Carl. Then when we put down a Rift, it will also spawn in 3 more and send out any ones we have perched. So in theory, as we'll show off later in the video, you can send out 8 at once. And overall, the goal of this build is every single time we shoot our weapon, we want a threadling going towards that target. So more ways to spawn in threadlings. Thread of Rebirth. Strand weapon final blows have a chance to create a threadling, along with strand weapons with hatchling, for example the Raid AR, or really whatever one you want to use. The machine gun is also a really good choice. Every single precision final blow will also spawn in a threadling. So along with our grenade and our Rift, now on every strand weapon final blow we have a chance to spawn in a threadling. And if we're using the hatchling perk, every single precision final blow will spawn in 1. So every final blow could potentially spawn in 2 additional threadlings. So we have multiple ways to spawn in these threadlings. Now to increase their damage with the fragment, right here, the Thread of Evolution, threadlings travel further and deal additional damage. So now look at that, before they hit for like 11.8 on Carl, now with this fragment, they're going to hit for over 15,000, which is going to be exactly a 33% increase to threadling damage of any source, so through our grenade, Rift, and weapons. So now the question for this build is, do you want to build into your grenade where every grenade equals 5 threadlings, or do you want to build into more rifts where every rift equals 3 threadlings? And I think the obvious answer is more grenades, because 5, believe it or not, is higher than 3. So looking at all the things we can do to get this grenade back as fast as possible, along with our 2 fragments we already showed off, our third one will be this one right here, the Thread of Generation, where dealing damage generates grenade energy. Then our final fragment will be kind of a freebie. I use Thread of Warding for Woven Metal, which is going to be 50% DR, which is extremely good, the highest in the game, and stacks. So whenever I'm playing Strain, I have this thing on, but if you want someone else, you can. And originally my exotic armor piece of choice were the Swarmers, where destroying a tangle will spawn a threadling, and your threadlings unravel targets. And I think this will be a really good pick for future seasons, but this season right here with this artifact perk where rapid final blows with a strand weapon grants your weapons unraveling rounds. This build already has unraveling built in with this perk, so you don't really need an exotic armor piece to make the threadlings unravel targets when your weapons will do that anyways. So instead for this season, I think the better armor piece will be Verity's Brow, one of my favorite all-time exotics, where getting final blows with a matching weapon type to your subclass will give you death throws, stacking up to ×5, and stacks will give you increased recharge rate of your grenade and make your grenade do more damage. And when you throw your grenade, your nearby allies will get a buff that will give them almost their full grenade back. And in this build, we're going to be mostly using this exotic for the faster grenade recharge rate. When we're using our strand weapons, we'll get death throws all up to ×5, and I believe that is close to double grenade recharge rate, so half the time. And one thing that a lot of people don't remember about Verity's Brow is when you use your own grenade, it greatly helps your teammates get their grenades back, which makes this not only a really good pick for yourself, but a really good support exotic for your entire team. Your teammates will love you if you use this thing. And we also have the fact that it doubles the damage of grenades, and unfortunately this does not work with perched threadlings, but it will work with just throwing the grenade. So usually if we just throw the grenade, it also will hit for that 15.1 thousand number. Now we get death throws ×5. It will now do double damage, hitting for over 30,000. So if you're trying to get the most damage out of the grenade, consuming it for 5 threadlings will do 75.7 thousand. But if you throw the grenade, only spawning in 3, but with double damage, it's going to be over 90,000. So for this build, for ad clear, you want to consume the grenade to spawn in 5 Threadlings, because 1 Threadling is more than enough damage to kill most red bar enemies, or even majors. But then for higher health majors, when you're under light, mini bosses, wherever it is, you want to throw the grenade and not consume it, because you get more damage out of it that way. So for ad clear, you want just more Threadlings, but for higher health targets, you want less that do more damage. And look at the mods on this build. I have Strand Siphon to create orbs with our strand weapons. Then Ashes Assets does not work with perched Threadlings, but will work if you throw the grenade. I have Heavy Ammo Finder. I have 2 grenade kickstarts and a strand loader. If you're using a weapon with demo on it, you don't need a loader, so then I would use firepower. So when you throw the grenade, it can spawn an orb. Now I have Charged Up, Stacks on Stacks, 1 Innervation, and 1 Absolution. Then I have 1 Bomber, 1 Distribution, then also Reaper, which just got re-enabled, so we can spawn in more orbs after we put down our Rift. And for this build, like usual, you want Discipline and Resilience. Then the third trait I would build into Recovery, if you can. And for weapons, there's kind of a question, do you want hatchling or do you want demo? Which one in the long run will equal more hatchlings, which is the whole goal of this build? And it's kind of hard to argue which one is better. Demo equals getting your grenade back faster, and every grenade equals 5 more Threadlings. But with hatchling, if you get constant precision final blows, every single kill will equal 1 more. So, like, where is the crossover point that makes one better than the other? I'm not quite sure. I think they're kind of pretty similar, but that is where the raid AR comes into play. You can get hatchling in the right, demo on the left, and you don't have to choose. You can just use both. Another weapon that is really good for this build for harder content that makes it still work really well is the Strand Machine Gun, where you can get demo or hatchling. Once again, kind of personal preference of which perk you want, and that will allow this build to work really well in in-game content, Nightfalls, raids, wherever it is, because of how strong machine guns are. And one thing that is really cool about this build is the damage of the hatchlings themselves give you a big chunk of your grenade back with the fragment from doing damage. So you can kind of do this combo of consume your grenade, put down your Rift, and consume your grenade right after, just from the damage of the Threadlings themselves. On our artifact, we also have the 3 strand based perks to make the tangles have a bigger radius and suspend, along with the unraveling rounds that we showed off earlier. And this build really only covers overload with SMG or AR, and you're not really suspending things outside of the destroying tangles, so you don't really have a way to deal with other champions unless you use different weapons, unlike the suspend build, which also covers unstoppable very easily. So that might be like the one downside of this build. You have to work a little bit harder for it to work with most champions in the game, which leads to some other problems with the build. Compared to the suspend build, that one also is really good at getting your class ability back, your Rift, because of the way it worked with firepower. It could also work with bolster and detonation, but with this, when you're consuming the grenade, the perch ones do not work for any grenade perk in the game. So really, there's no way to feed it into your Rift outside of utility kickstart, which I didn't really find worth it overall. In the suspend build, the thing that's really helping you get your Rift back is this fragment right here. And obviously, we're not suspending stuff, so no point running this. So overall, I think this is just more just a straight grenade build, and you can't really build into anything else. One thing I do change at times is drop the distribution for time dilation and drop the absolution on my boots for a strand weapon surge. And the whole point of this is this will be a 10% buff for our strand weapons, which is kind of nice because we're going to be using demo or hatchling and not have a damage perk. And it's not really that big of a deal because every time you pick up an orb, it takes 15 seconds for the charge to decay with the surge. And more often than not, you're going to be picking up a new orb or using your grenade every 15 seconds. So you don't really ever have any charges dropping off from adding in the surge. It's just that when you do have the charges, you'll have kind of like a damage perk on your weapon. And this version of the build is a little bit harder to maintain. You have to be more alert and pay attention to what's going on. But I think it's pretty nice, and in most cases you won't ever have any charges drop off, so it's not really that bad. And yeah, that is the ultimate Threadling build in Destiny 2. I think once I get the AR with hatchling plus demo, it will really make this build click, because I really think you need demo for uptime on your grenade, but you also definitely want hatchling to spawn in more. So it'll be super nice once you have that role for this build. But overall, comparing this to the suspend build is obviously better for crowd control and just locking everything up. But that build doesn't really do damage from your abilities, it's mostly just your weapons. Where with this, it's the exact opposite. There's almost no like crowd control, you don't suspend anything, but you're doing as much damage as possible as you can with your abilities with Strand. So which one do you want? Do you want more crowd control with suspend, or do you want max damage out of Strand? So I think both builds are extremely good in different spots, and depending on your team comp, like I think really one person needs to use suspend in most activities, and that's gonna be more than enough. So having like one person on that build, one person on this could be a really good combo for Nightfalls and things like that to have the best of both worlds. Anyways, let me know what you think about this build down below. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.